Hi chaps, this is a Lowe HF-250 successor of the 235, which we've actually got one of those over here in progress. Basically, it's exactly the same radio in a different chassis. There's a few differences, whereas I think the reference oscillator on the 235 is about 600 odd kilohertz, and on the Lowe I think it's about 2.8 megs. No massive differences apart from that. The main advantage was the backlit LCD with the extra digit, I think reading down to 100 hertz, which was quite nice. Obviously a few cosmetic differences with the display for the various modes instead of the just a rotary switch on the 235. Also, the 235 obviously was put in a massive, great 19-inch rack. Not quite sure what that was all about, but it did make room for the keypad, which was quite handy. Anyway, I do digress. Bought this one. Advertiser's not working. Won't receive anything. Now, the person that was selling it, I checked what else they were selling, and they weren't into HF gear, radios, or anything like that. So I was kind of hoping it was just operator error, didn't realise they had to put an error in the back, that kind of thing. They were asking silly money. And I said, look, if I buy this and it's the processor gone, which is obviously bespoke to Lowe themselves, which no longer exist, it's going to be a very expensive paperweight. So, agreed a price, and here it is. Now, I have repaired this. I've repaired it just so I can show you what I've gone through and what I've learned. I often say when I look at something like this, it's not working, I bet it's something really silly. But finding that really silly thing can be really, really difficult sometimes. So I'll explain. Okay, so I'm going to power it on and I'll show you what I found. Right, the logic seems to boot up fine. That's great. Switch it on. It just sounds horrible. Nothing really. Sounds like it's on CW on a very narrow filter. That's the best way I can describe it. Tuning doesn't seem to make any difference whatsoever. Now I've got my generator on 10 megs, AM 1 kilohertz. I'm going to switch that on. Absolutely diddly squat. Nothing at all. What I did notice was changing the attenuator. Absolutely no difference. Filters. Absolutely nothing. No change at all. But if I press the mode button and I go through the different modes, so press it again. Ooh, something's happening. Okay, so we will investigate. Okay, we're inside the radio. As I said before, it's basically a 235 in a different box. If we go over to the 235 board, bearing in mind that I've still got the can in place on this, whereas I've removed it from the 250. It is kind of the same radio. Now, what I've looked at is we have no lock on the VCO at all. It's drifting all over the place. I checked the output pin on the phase lock loop, the unlock pin, which is basically connected to a mute facility, and that is high, so it's unlocked. Now the output of the PLL before it gets to the VCO, which is here, is amplified or buffered. If you see in the middle of the picture, There's a small op amp. Now I checked all these voltages on the op amp and the inputs and everything else seemed fine, but there was nothing out at all. Nothing. So I'm thinking blown op amp. Anyway, I took the bull by the horns, and knowing most of the parts for this are going obsolete any second now, if not already, I bought a set of balanced mixers, some op amps, even a phase op loop. Purchased some more bags of stuff over here, just in case. So anyway, what I was trying to explain is here is your voltage output to control the VCO, and it goes via this IC up to the varicap diode in the VCO circuit. Okay, that is then fed back into what they call a pre-scaler, which is basically a divider chip, back into the phase lock loop, hence the word loop. So that's supposed to keep everything nice and accurate. It was all over the place. So I suspected, first of all, this little bugger, and if not that, then maybe the pre-scaler. I swapped out both and I had exactly the same problem. So I'm scratching my head now. Now, I will confess, this part of the radio, where the radio waves come in and go through all the filters and the mixers and the front end and everything else, I got a good grasp on that. That's it, I could do that all day long. But when it comes to logic, data, bits, I'm a little bit less au fait. So anyway, let's have a look a little bit further. Okay, after many scratches of the head, I sat back and thought, well, hold on, the modes are working. It's making different sounds. Something's obviously working there, whereas the memory, filter, attenuator, tuning was just doing nothing. After studying the diagrams a little bit further, I realized that the mode switch is literally a switch, just how it was basically in the older set. It's what they call a hard on off switch. All they've done in the 250 is use an integrated circuit to do the same thing, whereas the attenuator, the filter, up and down megahertz, and the control to the rest of the radio is all done with data. And as I said previously, I don't really get on with data. What I found is I got the scope out, and you've got some integrated circuits in here, which are called shift registers. Get my finger in the way. One here, one here. These are fed with data from the EEPROM. EEPROM? No, yeah. The brain, okay. Told you I don't know what I'm talking about. And these give a code to the phase lock loop. And that code is interpreted to what frequency the radio is supposed to be working at. I noticed, using my scope on the inputs of these chips, that they were getting like little spikes. And I compared that to the 235, and that was getting little spikes as well. Something was going on. So I put that to the back of my mind for a little bit. But when I checked the outputs of these chips, they were all 5-volt high, every single one, hard. So I'm thinking, well, if that's going into the phase lock loop, it's not going to know what to do with it, and that's probably why it's not locking. So I changed those two chips as well. Turned it back on, exactly the same. So I had a few nights off from it, and I had a little bit of a think, and I thought, I was looking on the diagram, and I think the only thing that can control these chips is the data. So I actually got a meter out, and I thought, well, the data comes from the front panel to these ICs. I shall show you briefly on the drawing. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is the control unit, front panel basically. So you've got this data, and this goes all the way up here, and that's the input to these chips, and that's daisy chained basically from one to the other. And I'm thinking, well, I stuck a meter on here, data, just continuity test, and then I put it on pin 2. Ooh, oh, I'm not going to get in focus now, am I? Let's try again. There we go. Pin 2. And I had nothing. Completely open circuit. I thought that can't be right. Then when I remembered, when I checked the data pulses, I actually checked it here. Sorry about the focus, guys. I actually checked it here, not at the actual chip itself. And what's between data and the chip? If you look on here, that comes down here to L46, which is a little 100 microhenry choke. That's all it is, nothing special. There's no current involved here, it's his signal. Anyway, so here's the ground breaker. I put a meter across L46 and it was open circuit. Would you believe it? Open circuit. I didn't have a 100 microhenry choke to hand, but I thought a little bit of wire just do for now, just to see what happens. And anyway, you'll see what happens next.
Mutual understanding for peoples, I think, indeed. For example, now in China, and a very, very high people and also for its culture. So if we look at the achievement, certainly it's not. It's started from this requirement for economic cooperation, but so far it's not only just for this economic cooperation.
Okay, Dr. Zougopoulos, are there any flagship projects or featured collaborations between the two that impressed you the most?
Crystal clear waters of the Mediterranean in Turkey, then District, located in the south. Russian tourists enjoy nature and the sea in February in the city of Antalya.
That was interesting for some of you. I did receive some SSB on it earlier in the evening, but I didn't record that. Everything's working fine. I'm going to go through a bit of alignment on it, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty much dead on, really. When these are working, they're working well. But if you've got any questions or just want to have a go out untidying my benches, feel free. Just a little rundown on the equipment. I'm using a HP signal generator, which I refurbished. The output levels seem very, very close. I'm using a picoscope oscilloscope, as you can see here. That works better than my phone does. Anyway, so also I'm using a Raycall frequency counter. What I've got is I don't know if you can see it down here, I've got a little tucked underneath. Can you see those two little lights? I've got a GPS disciplined oscillator, 10 megahertz as a reference for both these items. So close as I'll ever need for what I'm doing. Pretty much bang on. And that's pretty much all I'm using, really. Apart from my desoldering station, which has come in very handy. I've done a full recap on the rig as well, just to be sure. So they're all changed. The only ones I haven't changed are on the AMS board, but anyway, we'll see. Lovely little set, and looking forward to seeing what I can receive on it. And as I say, guys, any questions, post them below. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.